Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies and TV about the first recorded case of the manic pixie dream girl, I believe.
I wrote in my notes, manic pixie dream Holocaust survivor. Because, okay, we'll get into this. We'll get into this. You have so much on this, I know.
So much to say about this, we'll get there. But first, you're Andrea. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Jodie.
And you're Jodie.
Yes. And we watched Harold and Maude. I am so happy we did this.
It felt so good.
So we talked a little bit last week about our different relationships to this film, but I watched this in high school. My friend Nicole introduced me to this movie. She was very broody, she wrote poetry. She was in my photography classes with me. Everything you would expect from a person who would introduce you to Harold and Maude. I liked this movie a lot. I watched it multiple times between high school and college. I think I liked it more now. I think I pretended to like it because it was cool, or not pretended to like it. I did like it, but I think there was some sort of a pose that I was taking by really being into this movie in high school specifically.
I mean, I can tell you for me it was, and there's still a part of me, but so I also saw this in high school, but I saw it either junior or senior year. I had a film history class with the coolest teacher where we watched none of the movies you think a high school teacher would show. I've never seen The Godfather. I've taken.
Neither have I, actually.
Yeah. Oh, should we put it on the list?
No, we shouldn't. I think that it's much better as a bit in my life that I continue that I never see The Godfather.
Yeah, I understand. I think she just showed movies she loved because
that's great.
We watched The Sweet Hereafter. We watched A Simple Plan. I was trying to remember all of them today. We watched the movie The Commitments. Have you ever seen that? About the Irish band?
But I know about
good.
It. I don't think I have.
And we watched Harold and Maude. And one thing was all of the boys in class, it was mostly boys in class, but all of the boys in class were so grossed out by this movie that it made me feel I felt like I had to like it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is as a deeply depressed teen who kind of delighted in my melancholy, Harold was my way into the movie. And now I think, I'm not Maude, but I find her aspirational in a way I didn't necessarily as a kid.
Maude is goals. Maude is my ideal retirement, is in a train car with a bunch of art that I have made and a neighbor who sculpts me in the nude and
to remind him of the female form.
Right.
She's so funny.
Probably not a 20-year-old boyfriend.
No,
but the rest of it is goals.
It's funny. I texted you. I was like, it's not, I love Maude with my whole heart, but the person I am today who is not on a Maude trajectory, I was just so tired watching her. How does she have the energy?
Yeah. I would like to believe I am now on a Maude trajectory. I feel like it's closer to possible for me now than it was 10 years ago, for sure.
That's genuinely beautiful. I love that.
I have furniture in my house that I've made. I could see making, I definitely have friends who've made devices similar to her, odorifics.
I love that the odorifics work, that it's not just he can actually, Sometimes listeners, Jodie will text me that she was just roller skating in her art studio. So I think that's that's pretty Maude behavior.
Yeah. And that's part of why I had to have rotator cuff surgery. So that's the reality of what Maude's life would probably actually be more like. But no, I do feel like she's aspirational. And so I think we can talk a bit about the film for people who haven't seen it.
Time out. If you haven't seen it,
good Lord, go see it.
Go watch this movie more than maybe any other one.
Oh my God, seriously. It's $4 on Amazon Prime or on any other Apple TV, whatever.
It's so worth it.
So worth it. If you look at it and you say, 1971, so good. Still holds up.
Feels so good to watch.
Oh my God.
It looks fantastic.
It looks beautiful. Yeah.
Not everyone, I'm lying. Harold and his mom are dressed And
impeccably.
You know what? I'm going to take it back. Everyone is dressed impeccably.
Yeah. I know.
But if you haven't seen this movie and for some stubborn reason you're not going to go watch it right now, though you should, do we want to do a quick...
Yeah, the plot itself is like very simple.
Yeah.
Like 20-something kid, rich family, obsessed with death, lives with his mother in this gigantic house, and keeps faking his own suicide to get her attention. She, deadpan, never reacts. Meets Maude
at a
funeral. A 79-year-old like woman with a joie de vivre that is the direct opposite of his sort of morose take on life. And they fall in love. And she teaches him how to be a human and find joy and appreciate like art and the little things. And then, as she has hinted this whole time that he has ignored, she kills herself on her 80th birthday.
Yeah. Not a secret.
As she has planned to.
Right, all along.
But her impact on him will continue, basically. Right. The other thing that is a part of this film that is important to know is that there's a very subtle but easily noticeable, which is a weird thing to say, but it's never really hammered home.
Right.
But she's a Holocaust survivor. She has the tattoo on her arm.
And it's something that isn't revealed until pretty far into the movie.
Absolutely.
And it kind of gives you everything you need. And well,
kid obsessed with death meets woman with a, like zest for life. They fall in love. She teaches him to live life to the fullest and then dies. Yeah,
it's not a movie that, I mean, the first time you watch it, you might think the point is that he's going to learn to live a little bit and she's going to decide that life is worth living for as long as she has. But no.
Nope.
Maude is a woman who, with the strength of her convictions, and it is admirable.
She's got a plan and she's sticking to it.
That's right.
But let's talk about the making of this movie, because to be clear, my relationship with this movie, I've watched it a bunch of times and I loved it, but I never did even a tiny, tiny bit of research into the movie itself.
Yeah.
And how it was made and the people involved. And it's actually really fascinating.
Another movie, by the way, a flop.
Yeah. Made a profit eventually, 12 years later.
12 years later, but anyway.
Yeah. So this came out on December 20th, 1971.
Perfect holiday movie.
It was originally the day that The Godfather was planned to open, speaking of The Godfather, but the cut wasn't finished, so Paramount decided that instead of The Godfather, they were going to release Harold and Maude during the holidays.
And with like next to zero marketing. Did you see the original
poster? The original poster is just text on white.
Just text.
Yeah. No marketing, honestly. Like, whatever there was like, they were so afraid of this movie, I think, and the reception to it, that they just didn't stand behind the conviction of making this movie. Right. They basically made it and then were like, oh God, like, take a bunch of stuff out. We're not going to promote it properly. Like, holy crap, put our heads in the sand kind of thing. It did not do well at the start. It ended up making, it was made for $1.3 million, which was over budget. But it did end up eventually becoming profitable. It just took a really long time. I think by 83, it had recouped its money.
Yeah, I think 84 is when it officially turned a profit.
Yeah. But it became, what it is now, which is this cult classic that it literally ran in theaters for years after it was re-released in the theater. One of my favorite, this movie has so many fun little stories around it. Yes.
And one that I really love is about the Westgate Theater in Minneapolis, which when the movie was released, it ran for 112 weeks for some reason. They just never let it go. And I think Bud stopped by for the 1-year anniversary. Ruth and Bud stopped by for the 2nd-year anniversary. It was just like they just showed it relentlessly there for some reason. And that was like one of the first things that kind of kicked off this slow cult growth. I read a lot of like articles and essays that referred to this as really, really the first cult classic.
Yeah, it was shown a lot at like universities actually, and like the people that should have found it did find it. It just didn't happen right away. I was so thrown by the fact that this was released over the holidays, but what I found out was like the preview screenings they did of the movie were like mostly with young people who were incredibly enthusiastic about the movie. It got standing ovations. There were like, it was like all wildly positive reception at the previews. And so they were like, cool, we've got our holiday hit. A movie about a suicidal 20-year-old and his 80-year-old girlfriend. But like, it also opened not long after The French Connection and Fiddler on the Roof. And in the same month as Clockwork Orange, Dirty Harry, The Last Picture Show, and Diamonds Are Forever.
That is...
Same month.
There are like certain moments in film history where that happens, and you're just like, how did that happen? Like,
well, it's like the 1999 movie phenomenon.
It is,
it's crazy. So I think that the story of how this got made is, I'm sure there are people that are like film nerds that are like, duh, everyone knows this, but I loved this movie and I had no idea. So the screenplay was originally Colin Higgins, the screenwriter's MFA thesis at UCLA. It was supposed to be like a 20-minute short film. And I love the story about how it got made. Because
he just happened to be working as Edward Lewis's pool boy.
Yeah, he was a pool boy for a producer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently he showed it. I read a couple versions of this, but the one I saw the most was that he showed it to the daughter.
That he was like driving her to school. It was one of his little jobs, and they would like talk about his work. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the daughter showed it to the mother, and then the mother showed it to the producer, who took it to Paramount. But this doesn't matter at all. The producer's name was Edward, and his wife was Mildred, and my dad's name was Edward, and his mom's name was Mildred.
Oh,
and I just I love them. My middle name is my grandmother's nickname. But yeah, he thought it was like really impressive, and they brought it to Paramount. He sold the script, but he sold it with the understanding that he would direct it. He really wanted to direct, but apparently was not ready because they did like a test with it, and they were like, we can't have this happen.
Which I think is right. I think so. Yeah. I have two things I want to say about that. One is, I read somewhere that he said they gave him a certain amount of money to shoot not test screening. What do I want to say?
Like a
screen to shoot like test shot, like test scene. And he said, I'm going to show them how efficient I am. I'm going to use that same budget to make 3. I'm going to shoot 3 scenes. And so they were all undercooked and not
trying too hard.
Right. And I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, what they got was not what they were hoping for.
Right.
And then I was telling you off mic, I know we both read some of the book that we should say it was written at the same time as the screenplay. It was released as a promotional tie-in.
Yeah.
It was
referred to as a novelization, which it's like which we don't really know which one came first, actually.
Right, exactly. It's only like 75 pages long. I read most of it like between last night and this morning, and it is pretty much shot for shot, except you can see where Colin is a little young and a little green just in what he thinks you need to show. And so I think it was obvious. I mean, aside from getting Hal Ashby to direct your movie, I think it was the right call.
100%. Yeah. Apparently in the book, there were also there was an additional neighbor character that never got into the film. Like part of the process of turning it from a 20-minute thesis production into a feature film was fleshing out the world a bit more, and some of that ended up staying and some didn't. Apparently there were more scenes with the artist
Glaucus.
neighbor Glaucus, who I adore. I would watch a whole movie on Glaucus. But other, so I want to talk a little bit more about Colin Higgins before we move on to Hal Ashby, because he was an Australian-American screenwriter. He, after this, went on to work as a screenwriter on Silver Streak, but then he kind of transitioned to directing. And I think we might have mentioned this. I don't know if we were on mic last week when we said it, but he directed a few films like Foul Play, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
With the best person on the planet, Dolly Parton, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, he unfortunately died quite young at 47. He was openly gay at a time when it was extremely difficult to be so. Mm-hmm. And he died of an AIDS-related illness in 88.
He and Hal Ashby died the same year. I
know. It's crazy. He also started the Colin Higgins Foundation to support gay and transgender youth in 1985. Like, this guy...
It's impressive.
Really, I mean, obviously it's been said 1,000 times before that what AIDS took from the world is massive, but it's just something to be reminded of it. But as you said, this ended up getting given to Hal Ashby to direct. What I love is that Hal Ashby's just a cool guy. Like, he's just a counterculture hippie, like, rebel dude. Also a huge pothead, apparently. But he said he'd only commit to directing the film with Higgins' blessing, and he had him come on as a co-producer so that he could, like, use it as a learning experience so that he could become a director.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
It's really cool.
From all reports, Hal Ashby was, like, full-on 60s revolutionary, like, anti-racist. Like, I mean, this is a very white movie, I will say that. But, like, the movies that he directed and worked on all kind of deal with these, like, outsiders that are a part of, like, a larger machine of, you know, the systems in society. It's really, he was a fascinating person.
I didn't get a chance to watch it, but there's apparently a very good documentary called Hal about him that's on my to-watch list. So
yeah, I want to see that too.
Yeah, if you're interested, I would say that's probably one to check out. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
So before this, his directorial debut was The Landlord, starring Beau Bridges, about, like, racial politics, basically, in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And then after this, he went on to do The Last Detail, Shampoo, Coming Home, and Being There. Have you seen Coming Home or Being There? Because they're both films that I've heard, like, amazing things about, but have never seen.
Same.
Yeah.
But I have seen Shampoo.
Oh, yes. I figured you had, and that's why I didn't ask. The thing that I love about his trajectory and what makes a lot of sense now that I know it is he started as an editor in Hollywood. He worked as an editor for some really important folks and, like, maintained that way of looking and way of working when he became a director. Like, he was not a director that wanted the fame of, like, being a famous director. He just wanted to be an editor still.
I think this movie is just so... It feels, like, meticulous in the editing. Like I said to you, 90 minutes, which is outside. It's, like, right at the border of where a movie is too long for me. Yeah. But it flies by. It feels perfectly paced. There's never a scene that goes on too long. It's just, it's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, he won an Oscar for Best Editing for In the Heat of the Night. Like, he was very accomplished before this. He just hadn't transitioned into directing. He also was, so his backstory is so, like, I did all this research on him. He was 41 when he made this movie. And then I finally did a little bit deeper of a dive and found out more about his, like, actual past. Like, he grew up in Utah in a Mormon family.
Interesting.
Yeah. this was in 1929. He was surrounded by farms. He calls his mom the original hippie. He was a vegetarian from a really early age because he was around all these farms and he kind of reacted to the kind of animal cruelty that he saw. So he described his mom as the original hippie. His father was a different story. So content warning for the next little bit. We will be discussing suicide. This whole movie is about suicide, but this is an actual suicide, not a fake one. So, yeah. So his mom, he described as the original hippie. His father committed suicide when Hal was 12.
Oh. Huh.
Hal found his body.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that I didn't know that, and that this is the movie that he made.
Yeah.
He discovered his father's body in the family barn after he shot himself. Yeah.
Brutal.
Super brutal. So it obviously, it affected him. So it obviously really, you can imagine that that's a trauma that just lives with you forever. And he had a sort of tumultuous personal life. He was married 4, maybe 5 times. Once that ended when he was 17. So he got married like pre 18 years old. Yeah.
So Harold wanting to get married this young.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, he, from all accounts, was like a full-on 60s dirty hippie for his entire life, both pre and post 1960s. Did you see that he has a cameo in the film? He's the guy with the huge ass, like, dirty beard when they're like looking at the train set at the carnival.
Carnival, yeah.
Yeah. It was so funny.
He looks like a fun guy.
Yeah. And also a really deeply traumatized, dark person.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen most of his other films, so I'm talking out of my ass a little bit. But from what I read, this is the most hopeful and sweet and least kind of sharp of his other films. Mm-hmm. This is sort of the best version of his outlook on life.
Right.
Other folks involved behind the scenes that I want to highlight real quick, really mainly one, the cinematographer, John Alonzo. He has quite the impressive resume. After this, he worked on Scarface. He was the DP on Scarface, the cinematographer on Chinatown, where he got an Academy Award nomination for Best Cinematography. He was the DP on Steel Magnolias. But he also, so his parents were Mexican-American immigrants, or Mexican immigrants. He was a Mexican-American cinematographer. He was the first cinematographer of Mexican-American descent to become a member of the Cinematographers Union in LA.
Oh, huh.
Yeah. He basically started out as part of a cleanup crew at a TV station in Dallas. Like, he has the classic, like, honestly, I'm a little cynical about the concept of the American dream, but, like, this would be it.
Right.
You know? There is apparently a documentary about him as well, called, from 2007, called The Man Who Shot Chinatown, The Life and Work of John A. Alonzo.
Cool.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to highlight him is because this film has a really specific look that I think is a huge part of why it works.
Totally.
And it's hard to pin it down. Like, what is the sort of, like, style of this film? Alonzo was known for his handheld shooting, and you can really see that in this movie. There's something about there's, like, a mystical, slightly otherworldly look to a lot of it.
I want to talk about the, like, vibe of this movie that
it's always either foggy or the sun is, like, piercing through the trees or the fog or the clouds or...
And it's also, like, yeah, otherworldly is exactly the right word.
I mean, it's filmed in Northern California, so the fogginess is sort of inevitable. But
there's I keep seeing it referred to as a fable, which, but it also, to me, feels like there's some weird, fairy tale element to this where, I kept being like, oh, the fact that I'm getting into the plot now a little bit, but that his mom is like, you get 3 dates. And it's like, if you don't pick a bride from these 3, and then it's like...
She's very wicked stepmother, also.
And Maude is on a timeline where it's like, if something doesn't happen by the time she reaches her 80th birthday...
Right.
There's just so many things going on like that. And then I think paired with this...
The filmmaking.
The way this movie looks, it's just...
Yeah. Well, specifically, there's a couple of scenes, when they're in the woods planting the tree.
Yes.
And the sunlight's cutting through the trees. It's very magical.
Very Hans Christian Andersen.
Yes.
But the way we think of it in the 80s and 90s.
Not the original dark way. Not the original German version.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, should we talk about the cast?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay.
What a cast.
What a cast. We've got Bud Cort.
We've got
Bud start there.
Cort. Oh, Bud.
Oh, Bud. That haircut, man. Was that a wig? Did you look? I meant to look it up because it's very sitting on his head like a wig, but it could be hair.
But it is also 1970 or whatever when they shot this, so it could go either way. I mean, just knowing where the journey his hair takes throughout his life, I wouldn't be surprised if that were a wig.
Yeah. Yeah. Although there was one shot where you could see the beginnings of a bald spot in the back of his head. So maybe it was his hair.
Yeah.
What do you got on Bud?
I actually don't have a ton on his personal life, but he's another one of those actors who comes up where he started working and for a long time just didn't stop.
Yeah.
He's in one episode of a million different things. I think the first really role worth remark is he's in MASH. He's I keep wanting to say radio announcer. That's not the word.
Yeah, but he's the voice on the speaker
on the radio.
Yeah, it is on the radio.
And then he does a few things before Harold and Maude, and then a few things. I mean, then quite a few things, just about every, if not every year, every 2 to 3 years for quite a while.
Yeah.
But it's all smaller roles. There's he's in a lot of stuff where he's not credited, weirdly. But up through really the early 90s, he is just constantly working. And then 99 is the real sweet spot for us because he's John Doe Jersey. I don't think no lines, but he's God in until God returns to her form as Alanis Morissette in Dogma. And he's
Megan's dad.
Megan's dad, thank you. But I'm a Cheerleader.
Yep.
He pops up in Coyote Ugly.
Yep.
He's in Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which is a Wes Anderson movie, and we can talk about how that direct line if we want. And then he's still with us, but the last thing he did that I care about is he's the voice of the king in the Little Prince remake, which I think is an imperfect but really interesting remake of one of my favorite stories of all time. I wish we had any reason to talk about the original one with Gene Wilder, the musical, because it's nuts. But yeah, his last credited role is 2016, so I'm not sure. For somebody who worked so much for so long, it's that kind of hard stop is. I'm curious about it.
But I think he's in his late 70s now.
So maybe he's just done.
He's just probably done. Yeah, he was 23 when he filmed this.
Yeah, he was born in 48. So how old is that? Yeah, 70.
Don't make me do math on this podcast, Andrea.
77, I think. I could be so wrong about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, but who the hell knows?
There's no way to know.
He also worked as a stand-up comic when he was younger, in his late teens, early 20s.
He kind of has that.
See it.
Yeah, I could kind of see it.
You can see it.
Yeah. He's so kind of like I said earlier, kind of as someone who maybe delighted in her own melancholy as a young person, you really need Harold doesn't work if he's just morose.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it would be exhausting to watch him, but he's having fun with how miserable he is.
Totally. No, he delights in it. There's even that moment where he like kind of, you know, does a direct to camera and like smirks at us.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I never clocked that as a younger person, or like, not that I never clocked it, but never realized how bold a choice, because that was improvised. That wasn't in the script that Harold should,
apparently he improvised a lot.
Well, the two that I kept coming back to were that and when he gives his mom the middle finger and he's like out by his car.
Yeah. No, but he apparently improvised probably a bit more than should have. Yes. He also did some pranks on set. He apparently wanted to take the tradition of Harold's fake suicide into the real world.
Oh my God.
He nearly strangled himself in the process because he tried to pull a fake suicide prank on set.
Oh my God.
He also apparently told both a New York Times reporter and the director of this film that he planned to actually have sex with Ruth Gordon.
Listening to him talk about Ruth Gordon, or reading him talk about Ruth Gordon, is so funny. He's such a scamp.
Yeah. Yeah. In the article that I read that in, the quote is perfect. It says, he also told Letitia Kent of the New York Times that he planned to have actual sex with Gordon, a remark believed to be a stunt until he told Ashby the same thing. Reportedly, Court and Gordon did not have sex for the film. Reportedly. That's so funny.
Yeah, I want to read, it's mostly about Ruth, but at the end, Letitia Kent runs into Bud on the way out, and you ask him, it's written in second person for some reason, but leaving Ruth Gordon's dressing room, you encounter Bud Cort at 21, the blue-eyed, baby-faced veteran of such films as MASH and Brewster McCloud, blah, blah, blah. You ask him with a certain amount of embarrassment whether he thinks the relationships in the movie are credible. Oh, Lord, he says. I don't know why not. He says, I'll tell you something. I walk around now and I look at old ladies, and they look pretty good. He assures you Ruth Gordon is anything but an old woman. She's like a 15-year-old teeny bopper. She jukes around, and she's got more energy than anybody I know. I'm really looking forward to getting it on with her.
Oh, my God.
You know, she talks about her husband, Garson Kanin, all the time. I've seen some of the films he's written, and I guess he's a genius. But I think she talks about him too much. I think she ought to spend a little more time with me.
Oh, my God. That's perfect. That's perfect.
And when we get to Ruth and I read some of the stuff from this interview, those two are perfect for each other.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's talk about her, because that's pretty much all I got on Bud. Seems like a scamp.
Such a scamp.
Such a scamp. So Ruth Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
I love this weird map we're building because Rosemary's Baby. She had just won an Oscar for supporting actress in Rosemary's Baby, which we talked about what feels like a million years ago in relationship to Yellow Jackets, and is also on this list, obviously.
Yeah, another firecracker role, Minnie Castevet, who we loved.
What a great name, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The Castevets.
Her first film credit is in 1915.
Whoa. Oh, my God.
I know.
Wow.
She was born in 1896.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that crazy?
See, in my head, Ruth Gordon as Maude both died when this movie ended and has lived forever and is still alive.
Yeah. Yes.
She's both. She's still here, and also she died when Maude died.
When she wanted to, yes, exactly.
Yeah, at 80, exactly.
But yeah, no, she acted for another 16 years after this.
Wow.
I think. She died in
85. Yeah. Her last actually public appearance was at a benefit screening of this movie 2 weeks before she died.
It's so cool. What a life.
One of my favorite little anecdotes about Ruth Gordon and this movie specifically is that because it took so long to make any money, it was like 12 years before it became profitable. Apparently, when she got her first check from the film, which was $50,000, she almost threw it away because she thought it was like a Reader's Digest sweepstakes fake check.
Oh my God.
Because she wasn't expecting it. And so she got it in the mail and almost tossed it in the trash. But she did also say that even if she'd never made any money from it, it would have been worth it. People stop her in the street. They send presents. They send gifts. So, yeah, she said this was from an interview from a number of years ago. Obviously, she passed. But she said, in this quote, yesterday I was leaving my house all dressed up in my pink dress when the tour bus came to the end of my street. And there she is, the people on the bus shouted, and they started to applaud. So, but she did end up making money from this film, thankfully. And didn't throw it in the trash.
That's very good.
Yeah.
She is a firecracker. That Letitia Kent interview from 71. I'm just going to read a little bit of it because I know you're going to be delighted. You're sitting in her mobile dressing room near Land's End, and she's asking again in that accent, have you got an angle? Because if you don't got an angle, because if you don't, I got an angle. How many actresses are there whose careers have peaked at age 75? Okay, have it her way. She's entitled. But remember to ask about the nude scenes later. Thornton Wilder asked me, why do you have to tell everybody your age? Well, I figure everyone knows an actress's age. I went on the stage in 1915 as Nibs in Peter Pan. They don't bring me on in baby clothes. I was 19 at the time. So I figure my age is known. But I tell plenty of lies. I took that up 2 years ago. What kind of lies? Anything that's useful, she replies truthfully. This is my favorite part. And a year ago, I took up selfishness. And this year, look out, because I took up vindictiveness. I'm going to give it out to anybody who did anything wrong to me. I'm not going to lose track of lying or selfishness, but I'm adding to it vindictiveness.
Oh, my God.
She's so funny.
So Goals is actually, Life Goals is actually a combination of Ruth Gordon and Maude.
Jodie, I could just read this whole interview because then the interviewer suggests that the interviewer says, let's pack it up. I probably don't know when I'm being conned and I've got a responsibility to the readers. And Ruth says, we're not trying to get something truthful. We're trying to get something interesting so people won't throw it away and start reading Walter Kerr.
She's amazing.
She's truly incredible. Please go read this interview. I'll link to it because I would just read the entire thing.
So good.
Yeah. What if this is before the movie was even filmed? What if Ashby wants the scenes done in the nude? Then they'll be done bare ass. What can I do?
Well, I don't know if this is the best place to talk about this, but the sex scene between the two of them was rather controversial, obviously. Ashby did not find it so. He thought it was just a beautiful testament to love and sex regardless of age. But Paramount executives did not agree. They basically, after a preview screening, there was a longer scene of the two of them, including them kissing. And Ally McGraw, who was married to Robert Evans, the Paramount exec, complained that it was disgusting and should be cut. This is really funny because basically Ashby, they wanted the whole thing cut. And to get around that, Hal Ashby snuck some of the footage into the trailer. And so, and at the time, it was trailers were only scenes from the movie. They weren't extended cut scenes or whatever. So it had to be in the movie because it was in the trailer.
Right.
It was truncated though. They cut it way down.
It is so funny that the code that they definitely had sex is that Harold is blowing bubbles
instead of smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, it's
that's fantastic.
It's really good.
Yeah. I just hearing you read from that article about her. I love the fact that she is so in the movie she's posing for a sculptor, and in the film she's if I gotta be naked, whatever. I'm 75. Who cares?
Exactly.
Which I love.
She seems like the coolest. Yeah,
she really does. Ruth Gordon was not Ashby's first choice. He had he wanted a British person in this role. But apparently when he went to meet with a bunch of these people, a lot of them suggested her.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, they were well, what about Ruth Gordon?
And it makes sense. I'm going to go back to that interview, but let's just some of these names. I'm just going to read them because we do always share our sort of alternate casting. And most of these names I don't know. But Peggy Ashcroft, Edith Evans, Gladys Cooper, Celia Johnson, Minta Durfee, and then Agatha Christie.
Wild.
Wild. Who is that? When I was a child, I thought Agatha Christie was a fictional character.
Same.
She's a real person, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, the alternate casting for Harold is kind of fascinating because
Wild.
What a different movie this would be.
Yeah.
So the sort of biggest name, Richard Dreyfuss, which Richard Dreyfuss, even as a younger person, just seems so cranky in a way that is like not fun for me.
No.
I think the biggest name was John Rubinstein. Not the biggest one, sorry, I misspoke. The one that I think was closest to was John Rubinstein, who he was like early in his career too, but he's been in a ton of things. Nothing that I really care about, except apparently he's a dinner guest in Red Dragon, which is a movie I love. I don't know if there's anything that you care about from his, but he was like a TV actor with a bazillion credits.
Yeah, there's nothing in it that in his
he's
like
a
I know
actor
his,
too.
Yeah, I know his face, but I don't have like a show that I connect with him on.
Yeah, but he's literally been in like between 1 and 10 episodes of a million different shows.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like House, Angel,
Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Criminal Minds, Cold Case.
I somehow missed that. He's Linwood. It doesn't matter to you, but he's Linwood in Angel, which does mean a little bit of something to me. But but yeah, he was
in
around.
an episode of Friends, NCIS, like every 24. He was the Secretary of State. Like
Father Dowling, a show I loved as a young person.
Okay.
It's Father Dowling is Murder, She Wrote, except it's a priest.
I do vaguely remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, so he's been around forever. The one that I think is the next best choice, an actor I really love, who I think maybe it could have worked, is Bob Balaban.
Yeah.
Who is, I mean, I'm trying to think of where he's come up on our show because I know that he has. God, his list of credits.
It's
he was
huge.
in He was in the show Room 222, which Bud Cort was also part of. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind. God, his list.
Severance.
Severance is why we talked about him most recently. That's right. But thank you. He's waiting. He's waiting for Guffman.
He was in the show with Sandra Oh, The Chair, I think. Is that the one?
I don't know. I never watched The Chair.
Yeah. It was on Netflix. It was an attempt to talk about like university culture.
Like Chair of a Department.
Yes.
Interesting. I guess I'll have to watch that.
Yeah.
He's a Christopher Guest guy, a Mighty Win.
Yep.
For your consideration. But I mean, he's just all over. I love him so much. And I could kind of see Moonrise Kingdom, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I could kind of see Grand Budapest Hotel. Just keep going. I'm only at 2018. So let me just see if there's any big ones that will feel stupid for not.
Well, he was the voice of himself in Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist.
Love Dr. Katz.
A show that I was obsessed with.
Same. Me too.
Of course.
But yeah. And then, obviously he's Mark in Severance. Well, he's Mark W.
Yes,
Severance,
Mark W., not
of
Mark.
Course. Yes, how dare I? But he's kind of got that sort of like baby face and impish look.
Yeah, he's also a scamp.
Yeah, exactly. I love
especially probably as a young person.
Yeah, I can imagine. I love Bob Balaban so much. So maybe he could have done it, but Bud is obviously perfect.
Yeah.
And then
the fully crazy one.
The most interesting one.
Yeah. Hal Ashby originally, so this has to do with the movie, the music in the movie, which we'll talk about, but originally Hal Ashby wanted Elton John to not only write the movie for the film, which ended up going to Cat Stevens. Originally, Hal Ashby wanted Elton John to not only do the music for the film, which ended up being Cat Stevens, but to play Harold.
I can kind of see it.
Okay, I need to Google Elton John in his 20s, like at 23 or something.
I can sort of see it.
Okay, you know what? I can too.
Weirdly.
Yeah. I can see it.
But had he done any? No. He had no acting credits because he's done a couple of things here and there. But not literally, I mean, I guess he's a pinball wizard in Tommy, but then like, wow, no, for some reason I have it in my head that he's done stuff he just plays himself in lots of things.
Yeah.
He's my most important Elton John role is he is featured in the Fall Out Boy song Save Rock and Roll, and then is in the video playing God, basically. It's really
amazing.
Good. It's when they go to rock and roll heaven.
Yeah, on Elton John's website, there are pictures of him as a young person, and I can see it. If you go to like eltonjohn.com, like there's some old black and white photos of him, and the first one, he's probably in his late teens, early 20s, standing in front of a car, and it definitely has the same vibe.
Yeah, you could.
But could he have acted it? You know, like
question.
Who knows?
No clue. And just the idea of like what an Elton John soundtrack for this movie would have sounded
very different. It seems like everyone in this film remained proud of this and the work that they did. Mm-hmm. When we get to Vivian Pickles, I'll say it now. Vivian Pickles, who played his mom, has a quote: "Harold and Maude is the only job I've done where I haven't wanted to change something after I've seen it."
She's great in this too.
She is.
That's good to hear. Because even like you hear that a lot about some of our greatest movies of all. Like people, that's like a hard place to land when you're part of creating something like this.
Well, and I think what we've seen is that in a lot of cases, it's because the filming process was rife with all the issues that Hollywood is known for, and it doesn't seem like this set was at all. And that's Hal Ashby's leading.
Yeah, and also it seems like that it was kind of like, I don't know what the word is. There was something like secret, it feels like, almost about it.
Well,
like
they basically, when they realized they were going to originally shoot in LA and the vibes were just not right. And so they went off to Northern California, and part of the consequence of that was that it did feel like they were kind of off doing this without any supervision.
Exactly. Unsupervised. Not, what did I say? In secret. Unsupervised is the word I want.
Yeah. It's like a ragtag bunch of, you know.
Exactly like Dawson's Creek filming in North Carolina, you know?
Exactly. Yes.
It
was the first thing that came to my mind as well.
Of course.
Other folks in this film, some side characters. I mean, this film is really mainly three people. Mm-hmm. It's Harold, Maude, and Harold's mom. Mm-hmm. But we have Glaucus. I can't remember how they pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure.
I just kind of blanked on it.
Yeah.
Played by Cyril Cusack of the acting Cusack family. Apparently there were a lot more scenes of him filmed that were cut, which makes me really sad. I want to see a Glaucus movie. Like, he's got shades of every fucking 1960s abstract expressionist sculptor. Like, there's a type, like if you've seen Pollock, like that's the vibe of a lot of those artists of that time, specifically the male artists of that time. But funny. He seems a little bit more like kind of harmlessly self-obsessed.
Right. It's funny because the thing about Maude is it feels like she's the kind of person who has collected a motley crew of people that are very special to her and weird little, but other than Glaucus, Maude, that's the thing about Maude that is, I think, the most complicated part of it, is she, for all of her zest and love for life and living in the world, she is clearly very lonely. Because when the first time Bud leaves before having the strawberry oat tea, she is so insistent that he come back that it's a little sad, where it's like you can feel that she's really looking for companionship.
Well, and that, I think, it does complicate her character, because we'll talk about the whole, arc of her character, but
that's also before she's a Holocaust survivor and has suffered more loss than any of us ever will.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that, which is that her loneliness, it's weird because you can see the loneliness a little bit in her interaction with Harold, but also she doesn't seem to, she's not a sad person in any way.
No.
And I think once you find out, there's that moment when you see the tattoo on her arm where a lot of things kind of fall into place. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, this is a person who has found this joy despite all of this loss and sadness.
Right. And not even trauma. Despite so much as like, as a reaction to, I would assume, as like, it's the thing of like, you know, we followed this right after Romeo and Juliet, and like Romeo is also deeply melancholic despite having wealth and no real trauma in his life until he invites it in. And Harold also, it's like, it is easy to romanticize death and melancholy when you're so removed from it in any real way.
Yeah.
Although I will say, we don't know where Harold's father is.
Right. And also the story that he tells about how the fake suicide started is actually like a real, like somewhat serious moment in his life. Not Holocaust real, but...
Right. But so it isn't just that these two, because for the fairy tale of it, they, you know, it's easy to read them as kind of one thing, but they each have something going on that complicates what's on the surface in a way that is
Thank God. I mean, this movie would be so flat without it and so paper thin. Couple other bit character parts that I thought were fun. Uncle Victor, played by Charles Tyner.
Every bit character, every side character in this movie is perfect, including Uncle Victor.
You know where we know him from?
Where do we know him from?
He was the motel owner in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh my God, incredible.
Yeah. I was so excited when I saw that. Because I looked him up and I was like, I don't know if I know him from things. His face is vaguely familiar, and the only one that stood out to me was that. I was like, oh, okay.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then, like, lastly, we have Tom Skerritt as the cop. This was not originally his part, but the guy that had it, William Lucking, had a motorcycle accident while filming, like, his first scene. He went flying off the bike. He wasn't seriously hurt, but it was bad enough he couldn't do the part. And so Tom Skerritt stepped in.
He's credited differently, though, right?
Yeah, he is. He's not credited with his actual name. No, I couldn't figure out why, but he's not credited with his actual name. But that is him. We haven't talked about the reception, the real reception that this movie got, other than the fact that it was a flop.
I know we haven't looked at every Roger Ebert review for every movie we've done, but I do think this is the lowest rated of the ones we've checked.
1.5 stars.
What a miss, dude.
The main reviewers of the time, like the big top places you would go for these kinds of things, like Ebert, The Times, Variety, all hated it. Roger Ebert said, "Death can be funny as most things in life, I suppose, but not the way Harold and Maude go about it." Yikes.
So wrong.
The visual style makes everyone look fresh from the wax museum.
It was Ebert.
And all the movies, this is all Ebert. And all the movie lacks is a lot of day-old gardenias and lilies and roses in the lobby. Nothing more to report today. Harold doesn't even make pallbearer. He hated it.
You know what's funny about the wax museum thing is, like,
that's kind of the point.
Well, it's true about Harold for the first third of the movie. He's slowly, by the end of the movie, he's so rosy.
Yeah.
And like, you can see that it looks like he's wearing, and Harold very well could, that, like, he looks like he's wearing funeral makeup. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was something Harold did. He's like a proto-goth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
100%.
So,
yeah. It's intentional.
Get it together, Ebert.
Yeah. Did you see the Variety review, though?
I saw it quoted in a different article. Can you share some of that?
This is one of the harshest things I've ever heard. Harold and Maude from the Variety review. Harold and Maude has all the fun and gaiety of a burning orphanage.
That's it.
Ruth Gordon heads the cast as an offensive eccentric who becomes a beacon of life and a beacon in the life of a self-destructive rich boy played by Bud Cort. Together, they attend funerals and indulge in specious philosophizing. All the fun and gaiety of a burning orphanage.
That's so funny. The thing that is if I have anything negative to say about this movie, and I don't, but if I did, it would be that, and I think maybe it's looking back through what we know about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl now.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes, okay, now I want to just call her Ruth. Sometimes Maude can be a little on the nose. She
totally.
is but I will say, so the book, it is way worse. Like, she is so, like, Colin Higgins is so spelling it out that it's interesting to see how much they cut and how much more effective it is.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a little bit of the, like, yes, I get.
Yeah.
I get the lesson of it.
When you think about the time period, though, like, I think all of that has to be taken into consideration because this comes out in 1971, which is after the sort of peace and love era, post, like, Vietnam War, sort of, I keep saying era. This is 1971, post the quote-unquote peace and love generation. We are now getting into the sort of gritty 70s, getting into Nixon, getting into all of that. And so I do think that on the noseness, to me, feels like a product of its time. Like, and so many things have come after it that have used this and mimicked it that it kind of, it's a little bit of the flip side of the Mean Girls thing, where it's like everyone has taken this idea and used it over and over again. Yeah, absolutely. I think the ground.
We can talk about that a little bit. I also want to say, like, speaking of the time period, I don't have a ton to comment on from this, but 1971 Maude is 80, and World War II ended 1945.
Yeah.
She's only 26 years out from... Yeah. I mean, who knows when specifically but let's imagine 45. So she would have been, that's the other thing too, is like she would have been already well and grown.
Yeah. When she was in a concentration camp.
Something about that is like,
it's so
chilling.
Recent.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that much of a difference between 9/11 and today. And so
absolutely. Yeah.
There's something about her being so close. And because if, like, not that it's better, but if, like, she had been a child and had a whole life after to heal, but she is, like, really living out.
It's not that far off. Yeah, no, 100%.
I know that was, like, a little bit of a side note, but just
but
putting this in context.
I thought about that, too. Like, when we think about time frame, like, 26 years... It's not that much. Like,
no. And we know she had a husband.
Yeah, and I was literally, like,
to him, but
last weekend I was with people that I met 26 years ago that I'm still friends with. Like,
absolutely.
It's not, no, I think it's important to think about, because when we think about World War II and the Holocaust in 2026, it can feel,
and like,
it can feel prescient and it can feel distant, but it can really feel like ancient history to a lot of people.
Well, and especially because, like, when I was a kid, Holocaust survivors were still of where they would, like, one might come to your school or might give a talk. We went to the Holocaust Museum when I was a kid, and they were old then and had been pretty young at the time. They were, like, which is a different kind of horrific to be a child who lived through that.
Yeah.
But I just think, like, it's different.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about the Holocaust of it, I found this really kind of beautiful article, or this beautiful essay on filmcred.com called "The Greatest Comedic Tragedy: How Harold and Maude Redefined Holocaust Humor."
I read that too, or I started to. I don't know if I finished it.
Fantastic. It was written in 2021. I will, as always, link to it. I can't find the author's name on this page, weirdly. So I'm not sure what that's about, but I just want to share a little bit from it, because I do think it really puts some of what we've been talking about into perspective. Despite being a comedy, Harold and Maude is a film saturated in pain. It extends the laugh so you don't cry idea to generational suffering. Harold's fake suicides can be seen as a joke to some, but to more astute observers, they're an expression of deep misery that have no way out other than through comedic beats. This is a very Jewish expression of pain. Harold's obsession with death is not trivialized through comedy, but rather it is relayed to the audience in a way that shows Harold's own unfamiliarity with the concept of death. Harold feels dead on the inside, but he really doesn't know what loss is. He knows what it feels like to feel disregarded and overlooked, but not what it feels like to have love taken away from him. And then this is what really kind of struck me. Death is something so familiar to Maude, she has become desensitized to the idea. She plans out her own death in accordance to how long she thinks a good life takes to live. When she reaches that marker, she'll be ready to go, on her own terms. Harold will remain, having learned a powerful life lesson. It isn't until Harold experiences real death or loss that he is able to see the value of life, both his and others. And then just to tie it up, Harold and Maude are a metaphor for the life cycle. Harold is life obsessed with death, and Maude is death obsessed with life. Together, they're able to reach equilibrium and close the gap between two generations, both lost and grieving.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say that like Maude dies in this film to teach Harold about death. I don't think that's the point, because Maude's going to die whether Harold's there or not. And like this author says, it's on her own terms. But I really love that last bit about it really being about bringing two generations that have two very different ideas of death and suffering and life together.
Yeah.
I think that's really profound.
And I think the on our own terms thing it's like a thing that people say because people talk about how they want their lives to end, but on your own terms means something very different if you have been in a concentration camp and watched thousands and thousands and millions of people not have any control over that process.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So like leaving that up to chance, if I can't put myself in that person's shoes, but if I can see why you wouldn't leave it up to chance.
Right.
You would say, I'm going to take care of this at this time for myself in the way that I want.
Right. That's right.
I think, and for me, that's why, like, because I am very sensitive to cringe. I am a person who, if something is trying to be very sweet and meaningful, it turns me off. And so you would think that this would be that for me, but it's not. And a lot of that has to do with what you just said, like thinking about this in relationship to the Holocaust. Like, you can't get away from that reference once it's there. And it really changes the way that I read the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's sort of why the Manic Pixie Dream Girl is so frustrating and offensive, like in a lot of ways, because okay, so is this
Let's
where
get
we
into it?
Okay,
yeah.
So I sort of joked at the beginning, but I'm not joking actually at all, that Maude is the first Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but we tossed that phrase around,
and yet not.
Yeah,
like for a million reasons. Yeah,
right. But she so we probably talked about this when we covered Garden State, but just in case, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl is a phrase, is from Nathan Rabin article about Elizabethtown, which is a 2005 movie. It's a Cameron Crowe movie. So like the first named identified Manic Pixie Dream Girl is Kirsten Dunst. And it's, the like person who comes into some sad sack dude's life. We don't need to know anything about her background. She's like quirky and different and spontaneous and emotionally available and like.
Yeah, the thing that there's a scene that always pops into my head with this phrase, which is Natalie Portman dancing by the fireplace in Garden State.
Correct.
Like,
or her saying like, make a noise that no one's ever
made. Yeah.
And like you could see that being like Maude could say, make a noise nobody's ever made.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And she basically does dance around a lot.
Right. But she's got an entire world of history and life lived to be able to be like, oh, there's a lot of life here. Like, let's make something new, as opposed to these like, young, early 20-something characters who show up for the male's benefit, which Maude does. But we know that Maude has a whole life before Harold.
Right. And you can see this as like, the cynical take is like Maude is there for Harold's development so that he can appreciate life. But also, Harold is there for Maude's companionship and excitement and love and connection at the end of her life.
Right. And you can feel, it's so important that you can feel that Maude's world exists before, beyond Harold. Like I said, her life at this point is pretty small, but not her life, her circle, it seems, is pretty small at this point, but she knows she's dying in a week. So
she seems to be like, if she hadn't met Harold, she'd be fine. Mm-hmm. It's nice that she has companionship at the end of her life and that she has this last connection with someone. But like, she's the week before she dies, she's posing nude for the sculptor. She's like puttering around her apartment. She's like observing funerals and like stealing cars. Like, I love that she steals cars all the time. It's really funny to me.
That's the other thing. Number one, I don't think it would have worked, because I was going to say maybe it's because it's the 70s. It's like more difficult to track people down. But that's the other thing that makes this feel like a kind of fairy tale. Yes. That she's able to just steal car after car.
There's no consequences.
That cop shoots at the two of them and then just apparently doesn't follow up.
Gives up. Yeah, the cops in this movie are really hapless. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a slapstick comedy bit in there where like the motorcycle cop, they drive by and honk and wave at him after he's pulled them over the first like two times. Yeah, it's like, it is just very... That's the other thing we were talking about earlier that makes us feel like it's in a universe that's a little different from ours. Yeah. She steals a tree to plant on the forest. Oh man, this also is just some of the best. Like some of the dialogue in this movie is so. Man, I just want to talk about stuff I love. I mean, there's a lot of really good lines in it. Like, the little bit we get about his father seems like his father was very similar to him. Mm-hmm. You know, there's in the very beginning at the dinner party scene, his mom says that his father had a similar sense of the absurd and describes him floating nude down the Seine, experimenting in river currents with rubber water wings, mauve ones. Like, you know what's funny is it... That's like Maude to me. Yeah. And it's funny to think that... But his dad's not there, and you kind of wonder if his dad was similar to Harold, if he had the same obsession with death also. Right. And that's... So it, like... I don't want to... Just like the looming Freud portrait in the therapist's office, where it's like... It's so... There's just something really interesting about the idea that his father was like... somehow had some Maude in him and then also left in a way that then Harold became obsessed with, you know, like, there's Absolutely. There's a lot happening off screen in this movie that I think is really interesting. Yeah. And I think when we talk about where Harold's obsession with death comes from, we should mention that in the film, he does talk about the first time that he died, which is there was a chemistry accident when he was in school, and he basically like blew up the chemistry lab, and then left. And because he wasn't there, the police thought he had died and told his mother that he was dead. And his mother's reaction was sort of performative in a way. And he decided then that he liked being dead. Right. Well, because he's clearly, I mean, obviously desperate for his mother's attention, but you know, it's interesting to think about why she's so closed off, and we don't know what her relationship was like with his father. Honestly, I felt worse for his mother this time around. I was like, that would be fucking exhausting. Exhausting, exactly. Yeah. We didn't talk about the computer dating service. Oh my God. And just like when she's filling out that questionnaire and drifting back and forth between answering for him and answering for her. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, the service, it screens out the fat and the ugly. So amazing. I also, since we're talking about our favorite things, my favorite line in the movie is probably the dumbest, where she says, "Your hearse?" and he says, "Yours." That's why. Because it's so stupid. Line. I love it so much. I really love when she says, hold on, I'll find it. While you're doing that, one of my other favorite things she says is that she used to break into pet shops to liberate the canaries. Oh, how the world still dearly loves a cage. Yes. Yes. That's the prisons and the zoos. Yep. That's what I mean, where it's like Natalie Portman says that in Garden State, and I'm like, boo. Yeah. But 8-year-old
woman who survived a literal concentration
Right.
camp, she can say that.
Absolutely, because it means so much more.
Exactly.
It's not just a performance of
No.
like melancholy.
Yeah, and her just like, of course she's comfortable with death. I hate to
Yes.
keep hammering this home. The scene when they're this is not the quote I was looking for. The quote I was looking for is funny. But the scene when they're having that conversation about the daisies, which I think is a little cheesy, but it's very sweet,
Yeah.
where he says, I'd rather be, blah, blah, blah. And then you pull back and pull back and pull back. And there's that incredible, like, match shot of the daisies to the gravestones that are all alike. And it just keeps going and keeps going. It's really incredible. But the line I wanted to point out is one point when she's having her little conversation with Tom Skerritt, and she says, don't get officious. You're not yourself when you're officious. That's the curse of a government job.
Yeah.
You're not
there's
yourself
so
when you're
many.
officious.
I love her like really outright anti-authoritarian stance. Like it's refreshing in 2025 because you forget that there were people that were like that back then too.
Right.
Even though obviously there were, but
she's so committed to it. That's one of the things that's going on in the movie is it's basically the if Harold doesn't pick a wife of these three, he's getting drafted into the army. That's not exactly it, but that's like basically the stakes because of his uncle, whatever. And so to get out of that, he and Maude stage this big thing where he pretends to be so pro-military and so
bloodthirsty, psychotic. Yeah,
that he basically kills Maude. He and because she has this history of being like a protester, and she falls into her role really well, and they have this really beautiful.
I love their adventures together. Like that to me is one of their adventures together because they plan it. But also like they have a picnic at a junkyard. They go to a building demolishing. Like they're kind of popping around together. One of my other favorite Maude facts. So it would be very easy for them to paint her as.
That's funny. It's funny that maybe this is a little on the nose too, but just that like funerals, junkyards, building demolishings. It's just like, she's just like collecting endings, you know what I mean? Like leading up to her own.
Well, and like there's a lot of that sort of, like we were saying, like could be cliche symbolism. She lives in a train car. She was in the Holocaust. Trains are transient. They're also how people went to the concentration camps. Like, and it's a whimsical, beautiful space filled with art. She also could easily have been in a lesser movie painted as, I didn't mean to do that, as like the muse for other artists, but she's also the artist. Like she makes that vagina sculpture. She has the odorifics. Wait, before you get to that, because one of my favorite things she has is one of her favorite painting. It's a painting. She shows it to him and she says, I call it Rainbow with Egg Underneath and an Elephant. I want that fucking painting. Who has the painting? Give me the painting.
I'll bet you can find a print of it somewhere.
I want it.
Incredible. That's okay. I want to talk about just quickly. So again, if you haven't seen the movie, there's this huge wooden, really
the vagina.
It's it's like a big.
It's if Georgia O'Keeffe was an abstract expressionist, or no, a minimalist sculptor.
Perfect.
It's Georgia O'Keeffe meets a minimalist sculptor from the 60s.
Yeah, and it's got all these smooth, there's no like right angles. It's really smooth, and she like encourages. Yeah. She encourages Harold to explore it, and it's clearly very sexual. And then he does something where there's like a narrow... The opening of the vagina, basically. Yeah. That he hilariously tries to put his head through. Yeah. And it is like, is that Jodie? Is Harold being rebirthed in his like relationship with, or is that another like attempt at faking suicide?
Well, you kind of expect him to get stuck in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I just love how close, birth and death are in this, rebirth and death are in this movie. It's so he's so funny there, where he's like, let me just, that's because, like that impulse control issue.
Yes, it's so absurdist because like at first he's like putting his hands in it and he's looking to see if she's looking at him to make sure that he's kind of got some privacy, and then the sticking his head in it is just such a, you're right, impulse control is the thing that he does not have.
Right.
Yeah.
What is your favorite stage suicide?
Ooh. Oh, the one where he's outside the window and he lights himself on fire during the date.
He like waves through the window. It takes so long.
It's such a long process. And then like when it finally goes up in flames and then 2 seconds later he walks in. It's so perfect.
Really good.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite one as well. And then the movie, we can spoil it. I was going to say, do we? I don't know why.
It's over 50 years old.
Yeah. So, and then just to talk about the ending, because it is another sort of stage suicide,
right?
Or at least it's framed as such. The movie ends, Maude dies, and then you get this long scene of Harold driving his converted sports car hearse.
His Jerse?
It's
a Jerse. It's a Jaguar hearse.
It's so good.
It's like jorts, but it's a Jerse.
It is like jorts.
Yeah.
And down these like winding roads, he's careening, seemingly driving sort of out of control, which is much closer to how Maude drives.
Right, but he's not doing it joyfully.
Right. It seems like he's... And then you watch so you're in the car with him or through the window. You're very close with him through all of that. And then the like second to last scene is the Jaguar careening over a cliff.
Yep.
And that's the thing, even if you haven't seen Harold and Maude, you may have seen this shot because it's so iconic, because it careens over the cliff and then it freeze frames in the air for a moment. You're like kind of holding your breath.
Yeah.
And then it
smashes to pieces.
I mean, 2 pieces. There's no living.
On its top.
On its top.
Yeah.
It just destroyed. There's no living through that. No. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, he's gone. And then you kind of pan up and pull back, and it's another gorgeous shot. This movie has so many beautiful, just like beautifully composed shots, and it's him, this tiny little figure at the top of the cliff playing his banjo, and then you join him up top, and he kind of like bounces off playing his banjo. And isn't it funny that he lies at one point and says he's learning to play the harmonica?
That's so strange.
He starts to say banjo and then decides he wants to say harmonica.
I think harmonica is more obnoxious and he's trying to get rid of the woman.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's hopeful, but it's cool that it ends with it feels like his final like staging of what could be a suicide, but then is revealed to be.
Yeah.
There's so much in this movie that we still haven't talked about really I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot to say, but we're a video podcast. I'm kind of moving into a grab bag section, I think. But behind me is the family house, which is like you up the saturation, make that a little brighter, and I'm in a Wes Anderson movie.
100%. Yeah, there's so many filmmakers that like outright cite this movie as really important to them, or you can see it in their filmmaking. And Wes Anderson is like, that looks like a Wes Anderson photograph behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've seen, I mean, it's all over his movies, but I think Rushmore is the most obvious, which is a movie I love.
Yeah. There's the impact of this film for such a small movie that a lot of people haven't seen.
I know.
It's a filmmaker's movie.
I went through all of the research. I found everything. I feel like it's crazy. That never happens. Where it's just like, I think I found all of it. Everything everybody's written about it at this point. There is a book I just read. I didn't just read it, but they just announced it in May, coming out about the Westgate Theater and how Harold and Maude, like how they kind of saved each other.
Yeah.
That's coming out this summer that I can't wait to read. But otherwise,
there was also talk of at the time in 1978, Colin Higgins expressed interest in both a sequel and a prequel to Harold and Maude. Did you see this?
Funny, I did. Keep sharing.
So the sequel would have been Harold's story, living life after Maude, but the prequel, it was referred to as Grover and Maude, where Maude learns how to steal cars from Grover Muldoon.
So funny.
The character portrayed by Richard Pryor in Higgins' 1976 film Silver Streak.
I love that there's an extended Higgins cinematic universe.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Richard Pryor and Ruth Gordon in a movie together. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. That'd be delightful.
Did you find My Little Jersey, my most
I believe I did, yes.
fun Jersey?
And that's where I was the only Jersey connection I found, yes.
Yeah, other than Bud Cort playing John Doe Jersey in Dogma, but that's a stretch.
Was it the musical adaptation that premiered at the Paper Mill Playhouse?
Uh-huh.
In Melbourne?
In Melbourne, that's right. Which is
2005.
A very, well-regarded...
Yes.
The Paper Mill Playhouse, it's like...
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, in 2005.
Yep.
Starring Estelle Parsons.
With music and songs by Joseph Thalken and Tom Jones.
Yeah. Estelle Parsons, most importantly to me, is Roseanne and Jackie's mom, Bev, on Roseanne.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a long-lasting impact.
Yeah, the other actor who played Harold is from Hackettstown. I don't know him because I didn't watch Bones, but that's the thing that he was most known for.
Okay, I didn't watch that either.
Yeah, he's Dr. Zach Addy in 63 episodes of Bones. So.
Okay. One other random fact I found about the impact, we talked about how it was influenced a lot of filmmakers. Tessa Thompson, the current actor / producer, etc. Apparently when she started to make any kind of real money, she had to incorporate like you would to, deal with taxes. And the name that she decided to incorporate under was Viva Maude, after Maude from this film.
It's really sweet. Like I was saying earlier, while we're at the end of this movie, talking about Higgins as sort of a young filmmaker and a young writer. And I just want to read... I'm going to read from the book what the last scene is, and then I will drop in the audio or not the last scene, the last conversation between Harold and Maude, and then I'll drop in the audio from the film so you can sort of see what changes between Higgins' writing and what makes it onto the screen. So this is when they're in the ambulance, and Harold's starting to freak out, and she says, "Come on, Harold." The book says, "Come on, Harold," she said. "Give us a smile. What a lot of fuss this is. So unnecessary. Maude, please don't die. I couldn't bear it. Please don't die." But Harold, "We begin to die as soon as we are born. What is so strange about death? It's no surprise. It's part of life. It's change. But why now? I made up my mind long ago that I'd pick the date. I thought 80 was a good round number." She giggled suddenly. "I feel giddy," she said. "But Maude, you don't understand. I love you. Do you hear me? I've never said that to anyone in my life before. You're the first, Maude. Please, don't leave me." "Oh, Harold, don't upset yourself so. It's true. I can't live without you." Maude patted his hand. "And this too shall pass away. Never, never, I'll never forget you. I wanted to marry you. I was going to ask you tonight. Don't you understand? I love you. I love you." "Oh, that's wonderful, Harold. Go and love some more." Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole scene in the book, and I think in the original screenplay. What makes it onto the screen is this.
What a fuss this is. So unnecessary.
Don't die, Maude, for Christ's sake.
Hal, don't upset yourself so.
I love you. I love you.
Oh, Harold. That's wonderful. Go and love some more.
And that's it.
Yeah. That's all you need. Mm-hmm. That's all you need. Like, the go and love some more thing, to me, is, kind of the thesis of that part of the movie. Like, there is more for you. Like, right. She's had it. She's had a whole life. She's had love. She's had tragedy. She's ready. He has so much time. And I love in the book, though, that she pats his hand. When you read that, I kind of heard it as she pats his head. Like,
it's similar, yeah.
Okay.
I will say the one thing I do wish they included, or maybe I don't wish they included, but I think it's interesting, is her saying "this too shall pass." I know that as a very Jewish saying.
It's also a saying in recovery.
Right, yeah.
It comes up a lot. Yeah. It doesn't need... It's what you were saying in the beginning about you can read Higgins's youth in the original screenplay, book, etc.
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff that doesn't need to be in there. It's implied. It's already in the acting and the scene setting and the stuff that comes before. You don't need to spell it all out like that.
Exactly. And I think that scene is so much better being understated that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess now, as usual, at the end, we'll close by talking about the soundtrack.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Cat Stevens. This whole movie is set to Cat Stevens. How that came about, I think, is kind of interesting, because the story is that when Hal Ashby, who was directing but also couldn't let go of the editing process, was looking at, I guess, dailies, things without sound, he would listen to Cat Stevens to see if it worked at the same time. And it did.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's only 2 of the songs are original for the movie.
Yeah.
So it's funny, there's like no real score to this. I don't think, I'm trying to think
there's moments of other music, but it's sort of these like classical bits of music that were more like...
And I think they're more like diegetic, like when his mom is swimming in the pool with his dead body there. I think she's actively listening to classical music, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's 2 original songs. Obviously, if you want to sing out, and then
Don't Be Shy.
And Don't Be Shy, and then the rest are just other. Though they're other songs, but reimagined for the movie, so all new versions. And I think one of the problems with this movie not getting the like marketing and attention it deserved is it didn't get an official soundtrack release at all.
Cat Stevens was not on board. He apparently was a sometimes reluctant partner in this film. Like, Hal Ashby had to fly out there to, really convince him in the first place. Right. And then he didn't give rights for a soundtrack. Apparently the first soundtrack was released in 1972, but only in Japan.
Yeah. And now it's like, I think you can find versions of it, but they're very expensive.
Right.
Obviously.
But when I was looking up the soundtrack, it was like, the first soundtrack was released in 1972. Then a second one was released in 2007, but only 2,500 copies with a 30-page oral history of the film, which actually sounds quite cool.
Well, and that was Cameron Crowe's label that did that.
Yeah, Vinyl Films Records. And then 2021, there was a Record Store Day limited edition on vinyl.
That's so interesting.
And then...
Not until 2022.
Yeah.
This 50th anniversary
there was a commercial
edition.
Release.
Yeah.
Which is... crazy.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago, remastered Abbey Road. It's got all of Steven's songs, instrumental score, all of the...
It's the actual thing that,
It's really cool. Apparently, all of the unheard masters are in there, liner notes, lyrics, all kinds of stuff. So I think that's really cool.
But I think that so it's like, Cat Stevens, like I said, was kind of a reluctant partner, but his music is... I can't imagine this movie without it. Like...
I know I've already done this with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Weird. But... the theory that This Train Don't Stop is actually the song playing.
Yeah.
But just like the car going over the cliff and then the pan up to Harold, and then it's I'm still standing better than I ever did. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh my god. You could do it.
You totally could.
I'm Still Standing with him on the cliff is hilarious.
It would just be a very different movie, but it could happen.
Oh my god. Well, and apparently the head of Paramount suggested James Taylor, which I can see the similarity in vibe. Like,
yeah.
There's certain songs from James Taylor that give me that same, like, wistful feeling that the Cat Stevens music does, but you need that, like, even at the...
Fire and Rain playing while he's on the cliff. That's the one.
Yeah. Not as good.
You've Got a Friend.
After the sex scene.
After the sex.
I do think someone, not me, because I don't have the concentration, should go back and decide which song from those two should be in every scene.
Yeah. Actually, just let us know which Elton John and or
Yes.
James Taylor songs you think would work best in Harold and Maude.
Candle in the Wind.
Perfect.
I think we did it. I am so happy we watched this movie. Like, it's another one where I was like, yes, I remember loving it. What if I don't like it now? And then I watched it and I was like, ugh. Not only do I like it, I have an older person's take on it now that I didn't have when I first watched it. And I appreciate it in a really different way.
Yeah, and I never would have learned all of this backstory if we weren't covering it for this, for our podcast. So I'm so glad we had an excuse to.
Yeah, me too. So should we talk about what we're going to do next week?
Uh-huh.
We had a meandering journey to get to this decision, but I think it's the right one.
I think so too.
So I don't know if we need to explain how we got here, but we're jumping back forward almost 2 decades. Another movie that grapples with life and death and living while you can.
Great.
Some crossover, same cinematographer as this movie, but a very different vibe and location.
That's right. It's also at least one actor crossover.
Yes.
And the great Tom Skerritt.
Yep. We're going to do Steel Magnolias.
I can't wait to cry.
I'm so excited. I love this movie. Another one I haven't seen in a million years, but I promise you this is not going to be one where I think I've seen it and I haven't. I have definitely seen Steel Magnolias more than once. This was at a time when Julia Roberts was charming the shit out of America. This is a long time that she charmed the shit out of America. It went on for many, many, many years.
Yes.
But this was near the height of her powers. I would say Pretty Woman is closer to the height, but
the cast in this movie is unbelievable. Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts, Tom Skerritt, Dylan McDermott. Who cares about the guys? Kevin J. O'Connor, Sam Shepard. Who cares? But yeah, another John Alonzo.
Yeah.
Joint.
Incredible.
1989.
I have a Jersey connection for us right away, which is Olympia Dukakis, who was not born in New Jersey, taught acting at an acting school in New Jersey in the 80s and 90s.
Cool.
Yeah. I believe I met her then. My mom took some classes at that acting school.
Cool.
Yeah. So I am really excited about this. Unfortunately, it is a full 2-hour movie, but that's okay. Some of them have to be, I think. I wish it was shorter, but, it'll be fine. We'll get through it together.
I've watched hours and hours of Hey Dude over the last couple of weeks. I think I could handle.
Oh, speaking of, I do want to do a quick... So we're watching Steel Magnolias. Go watch it if you haven't. It's amazing. You've probably seen it already. You can see it for free on the Roku channel. There's 1,000 other places you can watch it. Many of them free. Some of them $4. Before we go, I would like to return to our recommendation corner real quick because a friend of the pod, I think I can say this, even though it's been a minute, Josh Gondelman has a new comedy special that just came out yesterday on YouTube. So go watch that. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm excited to.
Yeah, I had the good fortune of seeing it in Philly when he was working it out.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he actually came to the city I live in, which I will not name, but it's not a city that comedians come to, and I wasn't here last summer, so I missed that. So I'm really excited to watch it.
I'm excited to see where it ended up because it was already in really great shape. It was really, really fun.
Yeah. And just so no one is worried, we are in process on The Bear. I have finished it. Andrea foolishly agreed to wait until today to watch it with their roommate. To watch the rest of it.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's a crazy decision.
I know.
I do think we're going to have to talk about it, but I think having watched the whole season, the thing that makes the most sense is to talk about the season as a whole in one episode because it's all one piece. It doesn't feel like individual episodes in the same way that some other seasons did. There's a few that kind of feel that way, but that you can pull out. but I think it makes sense to talk about the whole season together because that's just the way that it felt to me after watching it.
Cool. So maybe
that it's one thing for the most part.
So yeah, I don't know if that'll be a regular Monday release or if we'll do it as a sort of bonus thing in the next couple of weeks, but we'll get there to it for sure.
Really great.
Say no more. Say no more. No.
I liked it. That's all I'm going to say. I liked it. I mean, I always like the bear, but I liked it.
Happy to hear that. I'm seeing if we have any.
And there's a needle drop I'm waiting for you to get to that you have to text me when you get there. You will know what it is.
I can't wait. Say no more. Before we leave, I want to share we have a new review. And this is from Rebel W. And it's new fave YJ pod. So back to Yellow Jackets. Need another podcast to listen to after YJ season 3 aired. Love hearing both of your thoughts, whether they back my own theories or you mention ideas I hadn't thought of. My one complaint is that I just listened to the rewatch of But I'm a Cheerleader and can't believe you didn't mention Rufio. Dolph may have been a small part of the movie, but as two people who grew up in the 90s, how did you ignore Dante Bosco completely? Did neither of you watch Hook? Still love the pod. I'm wondering.
I feel like we did say this.
We did, because I said I have a fear that I might not like Hook so much as an adult, just based on. But I love Dante Bosco.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it, but maybe didn't give enough space to him. I had a lot in my notes about him and how much I love him in this movie, and I watched Hook, but I'm a little older than the generation that became obsessed with it. But I even followed his like spoken word poetry. Like I'm a Dante, I'm a Bosco fan for sure. Yeah. So I'm so sorry if we either move too quickly past that, or if maybe sometimes we record for 2.5 hours and stuff gets. But I'm pretty sure. I wonder, thinking about it now, if I didn't want to badmouth Hook too much, and maybe he got sacrificed in that. But please know that I'm with you. 100%.
I love Rufio. I love Dante Bosco. So
and every now and then we say something off mic and think it's on mic and forget.
That's also possible too.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's very important, and if we didn't give him his due, we definitely should have. But this is a podcast run by two women with ADHD. It's pretty severe.
Yeah, but so he deserves a little spotlight either way.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for bringing him
100%
back to our attention so that he can get. He's also a voice in a new video game I'm very excited to play called Date Everything. There are a million people. This is a recommendation for a game I haven't even played yet, but now that we're here, I just to give you a few people, there are like over 100 voiced characters in this, but including Ashley Birch, who I love from Mythic Quest specifically, but she's around forever. Little known person named Brennan Lee Mulligan.
Oh, yeah.
You might also know Dana Snyder, Deborah Wilson, Love of My Life, Emily Axford, Eric Bauza, Erika Ishii, Felicia
so it's like
Day,
a Dropout fam situation.
Gray Delisle. It is like every Jaquise Neal.
Oh, nice.
It's wild. As you see, I'm only at letter J, and I'm just scrolling through quickly and then pausing because there are so many. Am I missing anybody really, really important to me as a person? Troy Baker, who, Jodie, I don't think you care about, but I love him so much. Just so many people.
Troy Baker from Last of Us fame.
Oh yeah, that's where you would know him from.
Yeah.
I know him best from Persona, but he's like in he's the
original
voice.
Joel in Last of Us.
That's right. Yeah. Because he did the podcast, right? Yeah. So just a lot of really incredible people in a dating sim where you can date like board games and all kinds of things like that.
That's amazing.
So that's my little rec for thing I haven't actually played, but am planning to when I have some time. You got any?
I think that's it. I mean, watch The Bear if you haven't. Like, it's really still very, very good. And they're doing things I really am excited to talk about this season.
Cool. I can't wait to check it out.
But yeah, that's it. I think, send us an email or drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. Maybe you can tell us if you were going to fake your own death, how you would do it.
Great. Really good.
How would you fake your own death?
I would disappear in the Pine Barrens.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, mine would be definitely ocean related. I would fake a drowning of some kind. Definitely.
Off the Jersey Shore.
Off the Jersey Shore, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Although convenience wise, it might be. I would need. So here's the thing. I hesitated when you said that, not because that's not the obvious answer, but because my version of an ocean fake death involves cliffs.
Not too many cliffs.
There are more
in New
of those
Jersey.
where I currently reside that came to mind.
Take a swan dive off a jetty.
Yeah, well, that was if I actually wanted to. We're talking about fake death.
We're faking our deaths.
We're faking it. I do often say that I'm going to walk into the ocean when I'm like 75, but
disappearing into the Pine Barrens is my equivalent of walking into the ocean.
exactly, yeah. So tell us how you would fake your own death, and if you want to leave an Apple review that's just this is how I would fake my own death. That's perfect.
I love that. Please do that. In fact,
Yeah.
Or which Elton John song you would include in which scene in Harold and
Oh,
Maude.
absolutely. Yes. So you can email us at watcherspodnj@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Instagram at watcherspodnj. You can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM.
And I'm at AQ Andrea Q.
And we will see you next week at the beauty parlor.
That's right.